And once more, dear friends, we are going into the breach. Oh, you're Catholic? Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. You acted like an American, okay? Now, there's a number of different things that have to be done in this country to change the culture, which will in turn change the politics.
And the culture's a swamp. Because that is not a Catholic teaching.
Right.
And the cafeteria is closed, my friend.
Yeah. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear friends, we are going into the breach. He tells the truth, just like we do at the Frontline with Joe and Joe on Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, Facebook Live. We got a great show for you tonight because, as we always say, the left is teeing it up for us, and we're Barry Bonds standing at home plate, ready to knock their lies right into San Francisco Bay. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, joined as always by Joe Resinello. Once more, dear friends, tonight on this Super Bowl Sunday, we are going into the breach, and we want to thank you all for joining us, as always, for supporting the show and sharing and liking and telling your friends about us. We've been getting a lot of impressions out there. We're getting a lot of good feedback. We're next week, next Monday, we will now have a weekly afternoon slot on the Crusade channel. And if you're just joining us,
evening, 6 to 8.
So, okay, I'm sorry, from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So Frontline with Joe and Joe are going to another level. We're going to be on the radio, and it's going to be awesome. And we encourage you all to check out the Crusade channel. That's Mike Church's operation out of New Orleans. It is a subscriber-based channel, but there's a lot of great content there, not just the Frontline with Joe and Joe, and you'll be able to see a lot of things. Mike Church's show is excellent, by the way. His whole lineup is excellent. Brother Andre, Marie, and others. But Mike Church, he's old school. He was old school, going back to his days with Sirius Radio. And now that he has his own channel, he's entrusting Joe and I enough because he likes what we do. And most importantly, because like him and the rest of the lineup on the Crusade channel, we're telling the truth. In a sea of lies, we are telling the truth. So we encourage you all to check out the Crusade channel and by all means subscribe. You're not going to be sorry for having done so. We also want to thank Jonathan Ross, our producer up in Toronto, Canada, for always producing our show and making it look nice. I think we're actually broadcasting, I believe, not just on Facebook Live tonight, but also on YouTube. And I think Jonathan has us on a couple of other social media sites going live. So we're getting thousands of views, getting a lot of comments. Some of them are negative, but hey, we'll take it. And we have you all to thank for us because you stick with us and you come and watch every week, just like Suzanne checking in. My baby's checking in. Erie, Colorado. Hi, Suzanne. So I say we're going into the breach on Super Bowl Sunday. And quite frankly, no judgment, but we don't expect to get a lot of viewership live because many people are watching the Super Bowl. But I think that Joe Resinello wants to get into a little bit of the reason, more than anything, why we are not watching the Super Bowl. So I'm going to hand it over to Joe right now.
And before I get into it, I just want to also say I believe Mike Church is offering a 30-day free subscription to the Crusade channel.
Awesome.
He made an announcement on his channel. You could, I think, get a taste of what he's doing down there. And again, keep your eye out for some interviews. We have 2 lined up. One we're doing next Saturday. I'm not going to tell you, but it's going to be posted on Holy Faith Media. And then we have another one later in February already in the books. And I think both of them will be very interesting and make you think, because that's why we're here.
You know why, real quick, you know why I respect businesses that tell you before they charge you any money, why don't you try the product? That means they have confidence in what it is they're selling. And Mike Church isn't selling anything, okay? But he has confidence enough that he knows that all you good people out there and a lot of other people are going to like his channel, and he's offering 30-day free subscription. I would encourage everybody to do it because, like I said, the guy's old school, and he's telling the truth, just like the rest of the people on his lineup there at the Crusade channel. So having said all that, Joe,
so let's get into it.
Where are we headed? Let's get into it because and the anger meter's going. So
as he said, as Joe said, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and it is on Fox Sports Network. And there was an advertisement that Fox refused to run, and that advertisement is from a pro-life group. They're called Faces of Choice. They basically had an ad which featured 14 survivors of abortions, which was it was featured on the March for Life, and they tried to, obviously they're going to pay to go on the network, and they were given the runaround by Fox and frankly, they refused them to air their commercial. They wouldn't take their money. I guess their money isn't as green as everybody else's.
I guess not.
But the interesting thing about that is this. In the same Super Bowl, you have two two drag queens that are in.
That's another way of saying men who are pretending to be women. Go ahead.
Now that is going to be in an ad. They have no problem with that. But when you have basically an ad, and basically let me just give you an idea of what the ad is about. It features faces and stories of abortion survivors designed to raise awareness of the survivors of abortion who have basically a very clear voice saying that we are people and not choices. So that's what the ad, you could Google. It's actually on our Facebook site. I posted it this morning. It's about a 2-minute ad. You can Google it and put Faces of Choices Super Bowl ad, and you can look at it for yourself, and you make the determination whether it should or should not. I mean, at the end of the day, their money's just as green as Sabara, who's featuring two drag queens.
Right.
So what's the problem?
Right.
What's the problem?
No, the problem is the NFL does no longer exists as a sports organization. The NFL, just like the public education system, just like higher education, just like the advertising industry, just like Hollywood, they are now what you would call, I know E. Michael Jones likes to use this phrase, they're proxy warriors in the culture war. Roger Goodell, we were talking about it before the show. Roger Goodell is a leftist. I don't care what lever he pulls when he goes and votes. I really don't. It doesn't matter to me. Roger Goodell is an elitist oligarch. That's what he is, and he's allowing the culture war to come into the NFL. The NFL as a sports organization does not exist. And there are many examples of this going back over the last few years. We've covered many of them on the show. This is just the latest atrocity. That people who survived the attempted deliberate murder of the murder, that they were going to be killed in the womb, have no voice as far as the NFL, Fox Sports is concerned. They have no voice. But the men who want to dress up as women on a Sabara hummus commercial, they could go on there. Why? Because they don't want young people seeing survivors of abortion. And it's a powerful video. It's an absolutely powerful video, okay? They don't want young people in particular seeing those faces and seeing those people. What they do want, because again, they're culture warriors now. Roger Goodell and the NFL, they're culture warriors. They want you seeing the men dressed as women and laughing about it while they're trying their hummus.
But by the way, God forbid that was Roger Goodell's son or daughter.
Yeah.
You see, that's the humor that I find in all of this.
If you can find it.
Well, actually, I shouldn't even say there is no humor in this. It's sad. I will bet you dollars to donuts that Roger Goodell would not be for one of his sons, or I think he has daughters, by the way, to cross-dress.
Right.
Yet he's fine. You know what it is? Because he's a coward. He's a coward because this is the corporate culture.
Right.
They've all bought into this nonsense, all of them. And he's a coward. And his God is money. And this is the smart route if you're in the corporate realm. He makes $40 million, by the way. But what I would say is this, most specifically. Roger Goodell does not know his audience. It's like many people who are in the elite percentage of this country, like Mike Bloomberg, who pretends to take the subway with 10 bodyguards.
Yeah, that ain't exactly taking the subway.
He does not understand people. Goodell doesn't understand his clients. His clients are you. His clients are the people who buy the tickets. His clients are the people who buy the jerseys.
Let me ask you this, though. Is it that he doesn't understand them, or he doesn't care what they think?
Probably,
does he really think?
Probably both.
I would say that, look, if you're taking your marching orders from the LGBT Rage Mob, and you're getting your marching orders from Planned Parenthood, all right, and all the cultural elites, then that means Roger Goodell, who knows his audience is generally conservative. The football audience in America is generally conservative, or at the very least doesn't go along with all the cultural nonsense. So he knows it. But guess what? He doesn't sip martinis with Jim Bob out in Arkansas, who wants to watch, let's say, the Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. He doesn't socialize with those people. He doesn't socialize with people like Joe and I.
Oh,
okay?
please.
Let's say your typical blue-collar New York Jets fan here in Southern Bergen County. He's not socializing with us. He doesn't give a damn about us. He might actually believe that our views need to be changed. Certainly one of his, I'm sure, comrades in the culture war, Hillary Clinton, had said that. You know, our values need to be deeply held religious beliefs need to be changed. Who's going to change, Roger? You. But here's the problem. I blame us. I blame you. I blame conservative Americans, because we say on the show all the time, until there's a unified force in this country to actually put things down that we don't need, we may want them. I want to watch the Super Bowl. Let me go on record as saying that. I wanted to do the show earlier tonight or later because I wanted to watch the Super Bowl. After this, absolutely not. We need 50 million people in this country who think like we do, because they're out there. The number's probably more than that. To tell Roger Goodell, we're tuning out, brother. We're not buying a jersey. We're not buying a ticket. We're not buying a hot dog at the stadium. We're not going to give you ratings, and we're going to boycott the advertisers who actually advertise, like Sabara. I love Sabara hummus. It's great. It really, no, it's a good product. Ain't buying it anymore. I'll make it myself. I'll go out and get a can of chickpeas and put it in the food processor, all right? And I'll make my own hummus. I'll get my wife to do it. My wife is a great cook, so she'll make it, all right? But the thing is, until we do that, these people trample us underfoot. That's what they do. And we allow them to do that because by watching the Super Bowl and by watching the sports and going to the Hollywood movies, not doing anything about boycotting advertisers who insult our beliefs, who talk down to us, we put money in their pockets. And that's the problem with America. We don't know how to say no to ourselves when it comes to these things, thereby saying no to these people and telling them you can't take our money anymore. We just don't do it, Joe.
Well, you know, I would agree with you 100%. And frankly, I don't think these people care about, like, outside of their little sphere. They absolutely don't care.
Well, let me ask you this, though. But what if we did? Let's say we did. Let's say tomorrow there was a movement in this country.
Oh, they care then.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you.
They would care.
You know, obviously, you always say that's all they care about is money.
That's
so if
it.
that's all they care about is money, well, guess what? You're going to decide whether you want rabid leftist money from like some Planned Parenthood and the LGBT Rage Mob, okay, and all the culture warriors on the left, or do you want our money? I dare to say in the area of professional football and professional sports in general, you're probably going to lose a lot more if conservative Americans, all right, and rational Americans decided to start boycotting you, because you're going to lose a ton of cash. That was my question.
Point, but what I would also say is the silent majority spoke in the election that basically put Donald Trump in the seat, and I believe it'll speak again. Frankly, what the silent majority has to do is, like Joe said, we have to get a little bit more disciplined. We have to make our voices heard, and we got to put our money where our mouth is, and we'll change the culture. Guaranteed. But, you know, this kind of leads us into the next story. And basically what this particular article focused on is how the Democrats are so lockstep into this radical abortion platform that the American people are not for. 87% of America right now is not for third trimester abortions. I heard that on The View.
Right.
On The View. 87, what's this, McCain's kid?
Meghan
McCain.
Meghan McCain.
87%. Yet they are in lockstep. See, that is the elite class. What they're basically saying is, I know better than you and I don't care. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to pay the price for it, Joe. I think they're going to pay the price for it, because these guys, by the way, this was the boldest statement of them all. And that, frankly, I think he just thinks people are stupid.
Before you read that, let's give a quick shout out. So we said Suzanne's here, my baby's here. Arvin's joined us. Thanks, Arvin, for not watching the Super Bowl. Don't tell us if you have the Super Bowl on mute, Arvin. And Siobhan, what's happening, Siobhan? Hi. And Joe's joining us over here. So thanks for joining at the Frontline with Joe and Joe, 8 o'clock Sunday nights. Facebook Live. So what?
Well, let me read you some statistics regarding how Americans feel about abortion right now, as in if it was on the ballot. And this is fair. And I'll be honest with you, I don't agree with everything here. I want to go on record. But I'm going to tell you how Americans at large feel about abortion right now. Because on record, Joe and I are abolitionists. We do not believe in abortion. But I'm going to read you what Americans feel about it, as in right now, if it was being...
Now, after you're done, I have a question I want to ask you. Go ahead.
Okay. The Knights of Columbus and Marist recently looked into a public opinion poll, and basically it says 70% of Americans want significant restrictions on abortion. 70%. Such as limiting it to the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. By the way, that's how it's done in Europe. Okay. We're one of like seven countries, and the countries that we're in with that have third trimester abortions, you don't want to be in with them on anything. Look it up. Allowing it only in cases of rape or incest, or to save the mother's life, or altogether prohibiting abortion. The poll revealed even 47% of people who identify as pro-choice want some form of restrictions on abortions. And then you have New York that say you could have abortion the day before the child is born and performed by someone who's not a doctor.
Right.
You see, they're completely, I'm talking about winning. Okay, let's put the morality aside. I'm talking about winning the election.
Just the politics of it. Just the politics of it.
Pure, hardcore politics. You're out of step with the American people. It was like when Donald Trump debated Hillary Clinton. It was a very powerful moment. He's like, I'm not for ripping a child out of the woman's womb. That was powerful. She had nothing to say. She put on that stupid grin on her face.
That dumb, phony, evil smile that she has.
Evil, disgusting grin. It's the same thing that's going to happen in this next debate. It's going to come up. Right. You're going to tell me, you're going to look the American people in the face, the average person, and tell them it's fine to abort a child a day before the child is born?
Did you see, I don't know if you were going to talk about it, did you see the little, I won't call it a confrontation, with Pete Buttigieg?
Well, that was what I was going to say. And this is where he thinks you're stupid.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
This is where Pete Buttigieg, who went to Harvard and was number 116 on the original Facebook list, or whatever number exactly.
He was I believe he was a Rhodes Scholar,
brilliant
which means
guy,
nothing.
But I'm just saying, like, analytically speaking, probably a lot smarter than me. But this is what he says, who is trying to use the Bible to justify abortion. This is what he says. He says, Scripture talks about how life begins with breath. So that's his idea, is life begins with breath. Thank you, scientist Buttigieg.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And he's a major theologian, too.
By the way, he thinks you're stupid. This is such an uninformed opinion.
Right.
Like, I don't have to go to the evangelicum to know it either. I mean, when you're talking about abortion, it's wrong.
Right.
It's wrong. And when you're talking about third trimester abortions, you're talking about being like Nazis. This is who we're basically in camp with right
now. But
remember,
you can't. But you remember, Pete Buttigieg is he's liberal and he's gay, so you can't call him a Nazi. Well, let me ask you this: he said to the woman, "So you have a pro-life Democrat. There are pro-life Democrats. They're abolitionists. They believe in a lot of the things the Democratic Party wants. They're probably old school Democrats. And they don't want to leave the party. A lot of times they get disgusted with Republicans. Guess what? Joe and I get disgusted with Republicans. I have to hold my nose sometimes, not with Donald Trump, but I have to hold my nose sometimes, or I have had to in my life. This woman said, when are you going to moderate? Basically is what she was saying. Now, I'm not quoting her exactly, but don't you think maybe your position could be a little bit more moderate? And he said, well, because you and I come to our places, I'm sure from a good place. So if we can't decide when we're going to allow an abortion, we should decide. We should say who should decide on the abortion. You know, I like to tell people, it doesn't matter if it's the child's mother that's deciding to rip the child out of the womb, Mayor Pete. It's murder. Don't you get it? There is no who decides. Are you going to allow that woman to decide after the child is born? Let's say the child is born and the child develops diabetes. Should the woman then decide that the child is not fit to live at that point, and we have to allow her choice and respect her choice?
Well, that'll be next.
And totally look down his nose.
That'll be next.
No, it's not next. It's not next. You want to know why, Joe? I'm sorry to cut you off. Ralph Northam already said it in Virginia. That's why that whole blackface thing came up, because they had to come up with a distraction. So they knew this guy posed with blackface in his yearbook years ago. They just didn't pull it out. They pulled it out then because they had to get these abortion comments off the front page. Because this is a guy who says when the baby's born, if the abortion doesn't go well, thank God it didn't go well and the baby was born, you're going to let him die on the table.
But no, but the point I was making was this. If we had a state-run medical like platform, and say nowadays, you know, doctors, my wife's 5 months pregnant, a little over 5 months pregnant. Doctors could tell a lot of things regarding the baby in the womb now. So say they see that you have a defect, like the child has some type of problem, I shouldn't say defect, some type of problem, medical problem. It's going to cost a lot of money. You know, money talks and BS walks. They could easily say, listen, this is going to cost millions of dollars to care for this child. The child's born with one lung. The child has no kidneys or something like that.
Right.
But you could abort the child. You could have the child. We're just not paying for it.
Right, exactly.
You see, this is where the state basically becomes a totalitarian monster. It tells you. You see, this is where people, I don't know where, they're not thinking, actually. They're not thinking. Because these are the type of things that the state could say. They could say, I don't care that you want to have the child. Oh, no, 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 no. You could have the child.
But you're paying for it.
But you're paying for it.
Right.
So, oh, but that's going to destroy me financially.
They'll say then kill your kid.
Then I'll pay for the
You don't think the elitists like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren
would do that?
In a second.
In a
They'll
second.
say, listen, don't blame us. Don't blame us that your kid got sick. Your kid's sick, kill your kid, because we can't afford to pay for it.
Yet, my father's bedridden right now. He has Parkinson's disease. He's been in a bed since the summer. We're taking care of him. My family is taking care of him. The point is, I'm not paying for that. Here, take a pill.
Right. That's what they're going to say.
But we're not paying for that. No.
Right.
You see, that's what happens when the state runs Medicare for all. And by the way, that doesn't apply to me because I have money and I pay for a private supplemental plan.
Of course.
It applies to you because you can't afford that.
Right.
And that is what will happen. Listen to my voice.
You remember when
that is what will happen.
That's exactly what will happen. You remember when Dick Cheney got the heart transplant? Dick Cheney waited online, just like every other American. Dick Cheney waited online. He signed up for heart, and he was about to die. Okay. Now, I don't agree with Dick Cheney in a lot of things, okay? But I will say this. He did the right thing. He put his name on a list, and a heart came through in the 11th hour, and he got a heart transplant. You think Bernie Sanders is going to do that? If he had the choice, or I don't know, even know if he has kids, all right, or Elizabeth Warren, or any of these other elitists, you think that they're going to go right to the front of the line. They're going to show their elitist credentials. Hey, I'm with you in the culture war, and they're going to be ushered right into the doctor. And all you middle class and blue collar people out there that voted for him, go to hell. That's what they're going to say to you. We don't care about your kid. One of ours is sick. We got to take care of ours. We don't have the resources for it. Oh, your child's got diabetes. Oh, your father's 85 years old. Let him die.
An actuary says he's only going to live 2 more years.
Right, so let him die.
So we're not going to pay the $800,000 for him to go to the hospital for 2 months.
Right.
No.
Right. And that's
what you take this pill.
That's exactly what they want.
And this is the way it works, folks.
My question I was going to ask you, though, is with Pete Buttigieg and the rest of them, okay, let's all get it through our heads. There are no moderate Democrats. Please don't buy into this lie that they're trying to sell you on cable news, including Fox News. Okay, Joe Biden is not a moderate.
He's just a liar.
He's a liar. Tulsi Gabbard is not a moderate. Okay, Michael Bloomberg is not a moderate.
Michael Bloomberg's worth like $60 billion.
The only thing that makes Michael Bloomberg in their mind a moderate is because they say, well, he's pro-business.
He can do anything.
Michael Bloomberg is pro-elitist. Michael Bloomberg will do everything to support his elitist buddies at Goldman Sachs and the rest of it. Michael Bloomberg is not on the side of the American people.
He doesn't even know a real person.
Right. He tells you can't use a straw like you're committing a capital crime, or you can't drink a soda in New York City if it's over 16 ounces, like you should be sentenced to death for doing so. There are no moderates in the Democrat Party. Please, let's all get it through our head. And my question I was going to ask you is, I have a hard time with this. I like to think I see through some of their tactics. They know these statistics. They know that even pro-choice people do not want abortions in the 3rd trimester. Okay, do not even want abortions for the majority of them in the 2nd trimester. They say 1st trimester. Okay, and now again, we don't agree with that.
There's not one Democrat that would support that.
Not one, because Planned
Not one.
Parenthood doesn't support that. Okay, so they cannot come out and be on the side of the American people. And my question very simply is this: do you people really intend to win? Do you want to? Joe said it before, just keep it in the area of politics. Do you want to win the general election? Go ahead, put up Joe Biden, put up Tulsi Gabbard. But everybody's listening now. Okay, everybody's listening. Everybody's more in tune to what's going on in Washington than they've been in years past. They see your debates. There's YouTube now where they can get clips of your debates with each other. They see you all supporting abortion up on demand. They see where your party is. Do you want to win? Because you're not moderating anything. And even if they did moderate on abortion, I was thinking about this today. They're all for some form of the Green New Deal. They're all for some form of universal health care, one form or another. Are all you blue-collar, middle-class people out there actually in favor of that? If you're a union worker, Tulsi Gabbard will probably support taking you out of your plan.
But that's why they're going to lose. That right there is why, that's why Bernie Sanders, that's why they don't want him to get the nomination. And they're going to steal it from him, by the way. Mark my words. He's not.
Well, are you prepared for revolution? Because as we covered, Kyle Jurek and Matthew Weisgerber have said if Bernie Sanders doesn't get the nomination, they're going to effing burn down Milwaukee.
You will see if Bernie Sanders gets the nomination and says that he's going to take away union health care, you will see New Jersey teachers support Donald Trump.
New Jersey is going blue. Excuse me, New Jersey is going red.
If you see him outwardly out of his mouth say, I'm taking away union health care and replacing it with Medicare for all, you will see, mark my words, you will see blue states vote for Donald Trump.
Right, but then,
and you will see the Teamsters, you will see the teachers, all of them, because all they care about is their own hide. That's it. That's it. They don't care about the country as a whole. They care about their own hide.
Their own power.
That's it.
That's it. They just want power.
Period.
Why is it that we have to talk about these issues all the time? Now, we do have to do. We have to shed light on these issues as examples of what ultimately we're attacking, and we're both attacking and criticizing and defending ourselves against. These are people who simply want money and power. Why is it that we can't all get that through their head? How do you gain money? Usually it's through robbing workers of their wages. In other words, that's why the oligarchs on the right and left, they all love open borders. They all love abortion. They all love homosexuality, because all those things undermine the working class and the middle class in America. Because the working class and the middle class in America, generally speaking, have families, large families, and they need money to support their families. And they become a pain in the ass to the corporations, because they walk into their offices and say, I need more money, or organize as a union or an association and walk into the owner of the corporation and say, we need more money. And they're a pain in the ass to the government, the liberals and the elitists in the government, because they say, you're taking too much of my money. I don't want you taking my money. I want my money to raise my family. So that's why the oligarchs, in both in government and in business, they want to create a certain class of people. And we've said it before, they want slaves. What does a slave do for you? In other words, when you own a slave, they work. And through their work, they gain wealth for you. Why? This has been going on for thousands of years, since the beginning of civilization. Why is it that people can't get it through their head? These are the people that want to control you. For what? For their own power and wealth. That's it. When you speak like we do, you're a threat to their power. You're a threat to their wealth. Well, we need to start speaking up. We want power back in this country. We want wealth back in this country. And that's it. I think they're going to lose bad.
So do I.
I think they're going to lose bad. Like you said, if you go and take those union benefits away,
finished. They're going to get. He won't win a state.
Let me tell you
he
something.
won't even win California.
I
don't think, and I mean it. I don't think he'll win California. If he says, I'm taking away union labor's benefits, you lose California.
Right.
You'll lose Illinois.
And all you're going to have is the Kyle Jureks of the world and the Matthew Weisgerbers of the world voting for you and creating violence. Okay, that's another topic.
But they're just a radical, they'll be squashed like a friggin' ant. That's another thing. They'll be squashed like a bug. All you're going to have are postgraduate rich boys and rich girls drinking $8 coffees because their father and their mother pay for everything.
Right.
That's who's going to vote for them. As if their life is, as if they're suffering. They feel like they're throwing people a bone in the society. Oh, let them have a piece. Let them have a crumb. Meanwhile, they're spending a day $16 on coffee.
Right.
And they have a $1,200 phone in their hand.
Right. I can't afford that.
I'm just saying that's who's going to vote for them. Danny DeVito is going to vote for Bernie Sanders. Why? Because he's worth $150 million.
Right. And if Danny DeVito needed a heart transplant, he'll pay
get
cash.
It if he could.
He'll pay cash.
By the way, you're not.
You're not.
You're not.
And we have to stand up and we have to vote for the one guy. All right, we have to vote down ticket too, but we have to vote for the one guy who's actually done something for the middle class and the working class in this country, and that's Donald Trump. That's Donald Trump. I don't care what the never Trumpers say on the right. I don't care what the Michael Steeles of the world say. I respect Michael Steele, but you are deranged people if you think you're going to gain any sort of long-term power, all you Republicans out there, by keep putting up this country club face that you have. It's all about business, business, business. And you don't do what Donald Trump has done for working people and keep working people and their well-being in your policy decisions and the policies that you promote, then you deserve to lose. Because that's what happens when working class people feel like you're just too much on the side of corporations and too much on the side of the rich. They actually give an ear to the Bernie Sanders and the AOCs of the world. They actually listen because you chase them into their arms. Take a page out of Donald Trump's playbook, will you? Start worrying about the working class in this country, and you could have power for a very long time.
It's a good conversation.
Let's give a quick shout out. Marine's joining us. Hey, Maureen, I went to St. Michael's today. I didn't see you. What's the best? Rita's out there. Aldo, Suzanne, Arvin, Joe. All right, so we're at the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello, getting frustrated as usual, but well, whatever. We deal with it. It's all part of the madness and the mayhem, as Joe likes to say. So we're on Facebook Live at 8 o'clock Sunday nights. Like clockwork, we're being broadcast right now, I believe, on Holy Faith Media. By the way, all you Facebook fans, please go and subscribe to Holy Faith Media on YouTube after the show, not now. And hit the bell so that you get notified and you can see all of Holy Faith Media's videos or get updated on them, including the Frontline with Joe and Joe. So we want to build that audience while we're building this audience. So please do that. So where are we headed next?
Well, we're going to the Catholic Church. I think you'll find this conversation to be interesting. You actually may find this conversation to be honest with you, surprising that it's coming from us, but we're fair and balanced, and that's what we do.
Unlike Fox News,
and we're going
really
to have
fair
this
and balanced.
Conversation. Catholics sue the U.S. bishops for misleading the faithful to donate millions of dollars to a fraudulent Vatican charity. Interesting, Joe Pasillo. The suit alleges the American bishops actively misled Catholics into believing their millions of dollars in donations to the collection would be used to help victims of war, oppression, natural disasters, or disease, when in fact the money was funneled into private investments. There's a law group, it's called the Stanley Law Group. They filed a lawsuit against, basically, it started in Rhode Island, United States District Court in Rhode Island, on behalf of David O'Connell. He's a parishioner of Sacred Heart Church in East Providence, Rhode Island. And basically the lawsuit alleges that the USCCB, that's basically all the US bishops, he's basically suing them for libel, for common law fraud, unjust enrichment, a breach of fiduciary duty, and for misleading, soliciting millions of dollars in charitable donations that were diverted into a private investment. Now, why do we bring this up? I will say, and I've said this publicly, I belong to the Archdiocese of Newark. I do not like what's going on in the Archdiocese of Newark. I am still a Catholic. Why? Because I am a sinner. Why? Because the church is basically a hospital for sinners. It's not a museum for saints. Why? Because we need the sacraments. Why? Because we are broken as a people, as in humanity. That's why I'm Catholic. Christ is the Savior. That's why I will always be Catholic. Why I don't give money to the Newark Archdiocese? I don't like what's going on. What I say here, and what I will always say, know what you're giving money to. There are many good parishes. I would support them. I go to a good parish. There are many good Catholic orders. Support them. But if you are unsure or you don't like what's going on, don't give a dime. Demand for financial transparency. I work in corporate America. There's such a thing called Sarbanes-Oxley. I'm not going to get into it from a financial perspective, but basically what it says is this: a corporation has to have an independent audit from someone like Deloitte, who are very, very skilled accountants and lawyers. They basically present the CEO with a document which he has to sign or she has to sign. If they lie, they go to jail.
Hear that? They go to jail.
They go to jail. And basically what they're saying is everything in this document is perfectly transparent and perfectly accurate. Mm-hmm. And in fact, it's $1 million fine and 10 years of prison. That's what Sarbanes-Oxley, it's a law. It was passed in 2002 states. I propose that every diocese, and some, by the way, bishops do, God rest his soul, Bishop Morlino in Madison, Wisconsin did this, should have an independent audit. That audit should be posted to you. You should know where your money goes. Let me just say this right now. It's your money.
Right.
It's not their money. The church is us. We are the church. They should be able to tell you where everything is, every cent coming in and every cent going out. Yep. And if you're not doing anything, look at it. It's just like, you want to look at my taxes? I'll show them for 10 years. Look at them.
Right.
I'm not doing nothing wrong.
Right.
Look at them. The point is, there should be perfect financial transparency. And if this particular diocese or this particular bishop's appeal said that they were going to do X for the money and did Y with it, you know something? It should be returned. And I hope they lose the suit.
Yep. Yep. Because what is it? What is it? Fraud. No, we unfortunately, you're talking about, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Peter's Pence is the Pope's personal charity. He could direct that money anywhere he wants. That is an appeal. Remember something, it's an appeal to the lay faithful to give their money for Peter's Pence for feeding the poor in a particular case, or whatever the Pope decides is worthy of that money. And the nonsense spin that came out of Rome, you have to understand something. This money was used in this particular case to partially fund the Elton John movie. And I used to be a big fan of Elton John a long time ago. I'm not going to see an Elton John movie, especially one where I understand there's a graphic homosexual sex scene in, okay? That's where Peter's Pence is being invested. Luxury condos in London, where when they got busted in all this, the Catholic Church, they bought the property, but the broker made $100 million. That's our money. That's ours. This guy now is worth $100 million, okay, just on one commission. His company. That's our money. And then the bishops are going to turn around and get mad at people like us, and we say, don't give to the bishops. Don't give to them. You know, on the parish level, they do have transparency in the bulletin.
Oh, there's many parishes, and there's also many. There are many good bishops. Yeah. See, don't get us wrong. I'm not making a sweeping condemnation across the whole Catholic Church. Listen. The church is made up of people. There are good priests. There are not good priests. There are good bishops. There aren't good bishops. What I say is this: I drive to go to a parish. Sometimes you have to do that. There are very good priests, and there are very good parishes. There are very good orders that do very good things. I will support people who do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And you should too, and you should seek them out. But what you do is, it goes along the lines of what Joe was saying with the NFL. You don't just blindly give money. You have to ask questions. Right. And there should be, if I run a diocese and I'm a bishop, if you demanded financial transparency from me, I would say you're right to. Right. Because it's not my money. Right. I am not a king. And if I start acting like a king, frankly, you're not doing what Christ called you to be as an apostle. The apostles weren't kings. They were martyrs. You know, in the Acts of the Apostles, let's get it clear. The apostles' job was to go out and preach. They saw that there was, that they didn't have the time. They could, obviously the New Testament, the good news, spreading the gospel.
That was their charge that they were given by Christ. So the people, the lay people, okay, who were supporting them, they decided to bring their money into the community to support the apostles and their efforts in doing what? Spreading the gospel, evangelizing, starting with the Jews, then going out to the Gentiles and the Gentile world. I mean, the apostles, when you look at the map of where they died, go Google that sometime. You had, I think Philip died in India. They got as far as India.
Or what's his face? Thomas.
No, Thomas. Got as far as India. They went all over the place. All right, before planes. Paul obviously went Paul went as far as Spain. Okay. My point is that this was voluntary. People felt like, well, they're our shepherds. They're the apostles. Let's give them our money, a portion of our money, so that we don't want them working like we do. We'll go out and go to work. We'll raise our families. You have an important job. You have to go spread the gospel. You show me, not all, as Joe pointed out, not all. You show me how the USCCB right now is acting anything like the early apostles. You show me how the German bishops, who are causing all sorts of problems in the church, are acting like the early apostles. We are giving because we know how to read. We could read the catechism when it talks about giving. We could read the Acts of the Apostles, where you see examples of the early faithful giving to the church. We know how to read. We also know how to understand that those people giving to the early leaders, the leaders in the early church, firmly believed in what they were doing. As Joe just pointed out, when you see Peter's Pence going for an Elton John movie or going for luxury condos in London, we see you're not acting like the good shepherd that Christ charged you to be.
What we also know how to do is write a check. And what I know how to do is this: think. And if you're not doing what God called you to do as a bishop, teaching from the deposit of faith, perfect transparency with regard to financial, like scrutiny, I'm not giving to you.
That's right. And that's the way it's going to be.
I'm not giving to you. And I will seek out a church that does, and they're there. So there are no excuses, by the way, because here's another thing, people. I'm not making an excuse not to give money, because here's the deal. It's very, very clear. Christ says, those who've been given much, much is expected. We are blessed in this country. Most people I have been blessed to travel. I have seen things that you can't even believe in terms of third world. You can't even believe. We have an obligation. Christ, it says very clearly, I'm going to tell you what the gospel says on one hand. You did it to me. There's your gospel. It's right there. One thing, I'm going to teach you that right now. If you learn one thing from this show, listen to this. You did it to me. Christ says also in Scripture, he says, if you give to the poor, when you call out, I will reach, I'm paraphrasing it Jersey style, I will reach a hand to you.
Right.
When you're in your hour of need, and you will be, because you'll die too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not making excuses about giving money. Please don't misunderstand me. Give to those who are doing the right thing.
That's right.
And use your head, demand financial transparency, and if dioceses are not teaching from the deposit of faith and parishes are not adhering to the teachings of the church, seek another one out.
That's right.
And support it.
And remember something, when you give, ultimately, we know this also from Scripture, okay? God sees what you're giving. If you have an X amount of dollars that you give to the church, let's say on a yearly basis, I know we break it up weekly or monthly, the X amount of dollars that you give to the church, okay? Just because you direct it in a certain direction, whether it's the orders that are in the church, and there's plenty of beautiful, hardworking orders that need our support, whether you give it to this parish or that parish, if you withhold it from the bishops, God sees whether or not you're being stingy, okay? And he knows that you're giving from your heart, but you're giving to those who are actually doing the good work that they're supposed to be doing with that money. It's that simple. It's that simple. So like Joe said, yes, we all need to give, but we have to use our heads. I think the one way we use our heads is if in a diocese, and it's all over Catholic social media, you know the dioceses that are a wreck right now, okay? Don't give them a dime. Until the hammer is dropped by the rightful authority, which is generally the bishop or archbishop or cardinal, depending on what office he has in that diocese, until the hammer is dropped and the filth is shown the door and the corruptors are shown the door, not giving them a dime. And I can do so in clear conscience before Almighty God.
And I write them a letter, very polite letter. I write them a letter when they send me a request. I tell them straight out, say, I cannot give to you in good conscience. My wife and I fast for the church every Wednesday. Count on our prayers. And that is how you send a message to those who don't do what they're supposed to do.
Exactly right. So we moving on?
Yes,
Let's
sir.
give a little shout out. John's joining us. Barbara, hi Barbara. She said Barbara likes their new bishop who replaced Bishop Morlino. Our new bishop graduated from she's from Wisconsin. Marquette University. Your brother graduated in '86. Another in '89. So I don't know much about your new bishop, but we'll keep our eye on him, and we certainly will wish for the best. Suzanne out in Colorado says subscribed already. Great channel. All right. So Suzanne, she subscribed to the Crusade channel. Mike Church's channel down there in New Orleans. We suggest and encourage all of you to do so. There's a lot of great content on there. Barbara also said, I hope the Dems lose bad. Barbara, quick story. I get in my car at night and I pray some prayers on the way home. I keep the radio off and no distraction. I have about a 15-minute ride back home at night. And one of my prayers, I think I might have mentioned this to you, two of the saints I pray to in particular, I prayed a number of saints, in my late night prayers are St. Benedict and St. Boniface. And I pray, amongst other things, that the Democrats get badly beaten in 2020. And I feel real good for doing so. If anybody could straighten out that party, it's St. Benedict and St. Boniface, because let's face it, if you could civilize the Germans 1,500 years ago, you're the guy that could straighten out this country. So definitely there. Aldo's joining us. I did want to mention, Aldo, this goes back to our prior segment real quick. We want a productive, this is Aldo's comment. We want a productive country again. 90% of our exports are empty containers. You see this all the time. Since President Trump has been in office, all of your investments have gone up into territories you've never seen before. Right.
Aldo works at Port Newark. That's why he's saying empty containers.
Okay, so you see the containers.
His dad was a Teamster.
Yeah. I worked down at Port Elizabeth for a long time, years ago. But you're right, Aldo, under Donald Trump, okay, and also because he's bucked the Republican and conservative establishment who wants a global economy because they're in bed with global elites. Donald Trump actually cares about American imports and exports and the effect that they have on the labor market and wages in America so that American workers can raise their families and support their families without getting exploited. I know we'll probably be called the socialists for using that word, okay, but exploited by many, not all, but many of these corporations in this country. So get it through your head. Your Chamber of Commerce, conservative Republican, your David Kochs of the world, okay, and your libertarians, all right, they're not in favor of Donald Trump too much either, for the reason you just said. They don't care about the American people. They care about their own profits. So anyway, you're at the front line with Joe and Joe. Maureen said, Joe P., I was there, wouldn't miss it. I don't know. I was at 11 o'clock, Maureen, so I guess I might have missed it. But anyway, you're at the front line with Joe and Joe, Joe Pasillo, Joe Resinello, Sunday nights, 8 o'clock, Facebook Live. Also, please subscribe to Holy Faith Media over on YouTube. We're building our audience there, too. Also, through Jonathan Ross's website, Holy Faith Media. So please subscribe to Holy Faith Media. And please, by the way, subscribe to the Crusade channel, Mike Church's channel. You can see them. Just Google that, the Crusade channel, and they're offering 30-day, 30-day trial subscription so that you can see all the content that's going on the Crusade channel, including the front line with Joe and Joe. So where are we headed next?
The media misleads us once again.
Oh, there's a shock. The media is misleading?
So this is an interesting tale. It's coming from the Washington Post. Basically, they reported that a 15-year-old girl was expelled from a Christian school in Kentucky. It's called the Whitefield Academy. And they said that the girl was expelled solely because she posted a picture of a rainbow cake on social media. Along with, I think, her sweater had a rainbow on it, too. So let's just needless to say, that wasn't the case. What was the case is, yes, she was expelled, but for 2 years, this girl was a thorn in the side, causing all types of trouble for the school. The school has proven it through letters that were sent home warnings. It's not a Catholic school. It's a Christian
They're
school.
Baptist. I believe they're Baptist.
But
they're in Kentucky.
The point is, they gave her multiple chances for 2 years, and this was the final straw.
Right. But the media didn't pick up on that.
All they put out was this, and it's not true. And along with many things that aren't true. Once again, you have to read between the lines. Once again, you have to look a little deeper. Now, what's my overarching point with this? Now, I'm not a Baptist. I'm a Catholic. But Baptists are in line with the Catholics on one thing, that active homosexuality is a sin. Why is that? It's very clear. It's in the Bible. It's biblical. It's not only from a natural law perspective. We all know what the anatomy of a man and a woman looks like, the compatibility, but it's biblical. All Christians, by the way, Jews are in line with that. By the way, so are Muslims. Just stating facts.
Well, Orthodox Jews, anyway.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's the same thing with Christians. Some Christians.
All right, you're right. There's liberal Catholics,
and they're they're for
your typical Hollywood Jew is all in favor of gay marriage and sodomy.
But at the same time, many Catholics are no different.
Right.
No different. But the point is this. This is a private school. They have a line of thinking. They have a code. You comport to it or you don't. You sign up for this, and if you don't like it, don't go.
Right.
And this school was very Christian about it. They gave her a chance.
They gave her a lot of
years.
chances.
And finally, they drew the line and they let her go.
Right.
And they can do that. You see, the media makes this sound as if like they're this nasty, evil place.
Right.
No.
Or they brought her up in front of an Inquisition panel and they were about to burn her at the stake. And Christian school dismisses LGBT girl. And Christian school, anti-LGBT Christian school. They signed a release. Okay, they signed the release. They signed a piece of paper when the daughter got into the school that they're going to adhere to the principles that the school wants them to. And yes, behave in a certain way. My father had to do that when I went to Seton Hall Prep. Okay? My sister had to do that when she went to Mount St. Dominic. My parents had to sign a piece of paper. Okay? You're going to act a certain way. This Baptist school does not condone homosexuality. It's that simple. Or the messaging of the LGBT Rage Mob in this country. This girl, when you hear about the after effects, then you know exactly how this all happened. Her parents, she's a rabble-rouser. She's a little smart aleck, a typical little 15-year-old who really, really needs a good backhand, okay, like a lot of these young kids do. But her parents are bomb throwers too, because after it all happened and they got kicked out, the father's cursing at the administrators. He's cursing on social media. The mother's doing the same thing. They lied, okay. They lied about the whole thing. They knew what their daughter was doing. You know why? Because they're button pushers too. They want the media attention. That's what they want. And this girl who looks so innocent in the picture, she blows out the candles, she got the rainbow sweater and the rainbow cake, and she's such an innocent little girl. Listen, every one of us are teenagers. Every one of us who thinks that we were innocent little teenagers, we know that's not true. I know I wasn't, because I was a real smart aleck who deserved the backhand in his face. Got a couple of those too from my old man, mostly my mother, right? But the thing is, let's be clear. These people are looking for attention. They're looking for a lawsuit. All right. But Joe's larger point in the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong, was about the media response. Okay. It happened again. All right. You think they would learn their lesson from the fact that CNN had to settle. We don't know. I don't know. Did you hear about the amount? CNN had to settle with Nick Sandmann. Now, they were asking for $250 million. Lynn Wood, his attorney, was suing them for $250 million. So
the Post is next, by the way.
The Washington Post, and there's others. So they were suing. Why? Because they rushed to judgment on Nick Sandmann, the Covington High School student, when the Native American rabble-rouser came up in his face and tried to provoke him, okay, just like they rushed to judgment here. Now, I wonder if this school is going to do anything about it, because no, this girl was not summarily dismissed. Like Joe said, there were many, many examples where she was told, you cannot behave this way and stay in this school.
And she was bullying kids.
She was bullying. She's the bully.
Bullying kids who were not gay, writing on their paper, insinuating that she was a bisexual.
Right.
You see, this was a bad element. She had to go.
Right.
She had to go.
Right, but she's LGBT, so she's not the bully. The school's the bully. But let's remember, they are the bullies. The LGBT Rage Mob in America, they are the bullies while they're accusing you of being the bullier. They are the bullies. They're the ones that'll cost you your job. They're the ones that'll shun you in society. They're the ones that'll say your kid can't go on to higher education if they identify as Catholic of their religion on their college application form. They're the ones that want to institute all this because they're the bullies, while at the same time they call you the bully. They are the fascists, while at the same time they call you the fascist. They are the new Inquisition, while at the same time they call you the Inquisition. Remember, Joe and I say all the time, it's a recurring theme on the show, projection, projection, projection. They project on you what it is that they're doing. Just like rushing to judgment against Nick Sandmann. He's a fascist. They're the fascists. They destroyed this kid's life. I hope he got $100 million. I really
hope he
do.
gets more.
I hope he gets more.
He's looking for $800 million all in. I hope he gets every dime.
That's right, every single dime. And let's put a finer point on it, okay? All you good people out there, you have to keep seeking out the good voices on social media, the truthful voices. We like to feel like in our own way and growing, thank God, that we're a part of that growing, that true grassroots movement in America that's through social media gonna dispel the lies that are gonna knock them out of the park, as we always say, and destroy their myths and their narratives, like with this Whitefield Baptist School, and the supposed young girl who was picked on, where it's a lie that they gave her in a Christian way, by the way. They gave her every chance to stop, and she wouldn't do it. Okay,
so she's got to go.
Yeah, that's right. She's got to. So we have to seek out the good voices out there, please, like we say all the time. And I'll tell you what, I'm not going to get into it. I've been doing a program for the last few weeks, and what part of this ascetical program that was started by a Catholic man, it's meant for Catholic men, is keeping the TV off. I feel, amongst other things, liberated that I have not turned on the TV, generally speaking, and I really haven't watched Fox News. I watched a little bit of the impeachment, but I don't have my nose in Fox News because they're guilty of this whole thing too. They're not our friends. I get some good news from them, but at the end of the day, they're not our friends. Social media is where you're going to find the truth, where they're going to talk about stories like Joe and I talk about, okay? And that's what you got to seek out. And turn that TV off, because they're all, like I said, they're all a bunch of liars, and it's stories like this that prove it once again.
And what this is also about is the Washington Post has an agenda. You see, sadly, there are agendas out there. Joe and I like to say this: we don't look right or left, we look up. I have to look at myself in the mirror, and one day I will have to give an account. That includes everything I say, as you will. The agenda should be the right thing. The agenda should be the truth. And the Post, in this particular case, as in a lot of the media, both right and left, they have an agenda. They have an agenda, and many times that agenda isn't your agenda. It's not your agenda, right? Because they don't care about you. They don't. Don't think they do. And sadly, a lot of this Trump, I hate Trump stuff, I read the social media. I don't comment on it really anymore. I used to get into crazy arguments on social media. Very rarely, if ever, do I. I see things, very intelligent people, that frankly, I cannot believe what's coming out of their mouth. Mm-hmm. The facts on so many things are so clear. Mm-hmm. They're so clear, and they refuse to look at them. They utterly and absolutely refuse to look at the facts. They have an agenda. And the agenda, frankly, is not you.
Oh, no.
Get it through your head.
No, you're the last thing on their totem pole.
It's not you.
No.
And I'm just talking about straight up and down facts. Facts.
But they
People
can't
choose not. It's like what we talked about on the Super Bowl, the first story of the night. 14 people who survived abortions were going to be in a commercial. Fox News. Fox. I'm not putting that on.
Well, Fox Sports, but it's all under Fox, right?
I'm not putting that on.
They're not putting that on.
Their money is good, right?
Right.
They have the money to pay for it, so they wanted to pay for it.
Right.
No.
Well,
I'm not putting that on. Why? Because they have an agenda.
Right. They're driven by ideology. They're only driven
Agenda.
by ideology.
And it's also, to be honest with you, it's money, because it's going to cause trouble. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, other people could, could pull money out of like the network, other advertisers. Right. It causes trouble. They're not interested in the truth.
No.
You see, this is where you have to look past the surface of things. Too many people live their life. Like, even to be honest with you, even within the Catholic Church, I say this in many respects. We covered this on the Crusade channel this Thursday, basically saying how, like, Archbishop Emeritus of Philadelphia says, a lot of what we do is in lockstep as Catholics with the culture.
Right.
We have the same vices and the same virtues of the culture. We shouldn't be anything like the culture.
Right. We should be countercultural.
We should be countercultural.
Right.
Christ was countercultural. We should not be like everyone else.
Right.
If you're a Christian, if you believe in Christ, you're not like everybody else.
Right. And you can't deny, even if you're a Bible-believing Christian, you got to remember, St. Paul says, we are in the world, but we are not of the world.
And your agenda
and we more and more
should be to go to heaven.
Right, but our agenda in America more and more is, if it's American, that supersedes your Christianity. Okay? Well, being a good American is not getting you to heaven. I hate to break it to you, Sean Hannity. I hate to break it to you, all you Fox News viewers out there who, it's just you, Jesus, in the Bible. Being a good American is not getting you to heaven. Being a good Christian, following Jesus Christ, receiving his sacraments that he gave to us, okay, that's what gets you to heaven. And you know what that requires? Putting away ideology and seeing things clearly and speaking the truth. Joe, there's one thing you do that I'm going to disagree with. This is going to be a shock to everybody, okay? Joe calls these people intelligent. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt to say they possess intelligence, but they by all means do not use it. They use it. If you use your intelligence and your reason in a way where you've come up with your conclusion and then you reason backwards, you're not using your intelligence properly. You have to use your intelligence and your reason to look at something to arrive at truth, not determine what your ideology says is true and try to work backwards, because then you're not properly using your intelligence. So I'm not completely disagreeing with you. They are intelligent. No, I'm not going to say that they aren't.
It's a better explanation. I think a lot of it has to do with pride, because people can't bend their knee to something, even if it's true. Like, they can't bend their knee to it.
Right.
Like, because there's pride there. There's many people that can't say, I'm sorry. Or there's many people on this earth that can't say, I'm wrong. I was wrong. I'm sorry. That wasn't correct. We all make mistakes, right? Last time I checked, we were all human.
Yeah.
I make mistakes every day. But I say I'm sorry. I also go to confession every week.
And you don't delude yourself into believing that what you're doing is right. And that's what a lot of these people
When I'm wrong,
do.
Believe me, by the way, a good Catholic, every night, me and my wife, before we pray the rosary, I think about my day. You should recollect your day. Think about things that you're thankful for. And then also think about the things you've done wrong. Mm-hmm. Every single day before you go to sleep, you should do that. That's a healthy practice. That's a very cathartic practice. Then also, I go to confession every week. I get a sacramental confession. I'm a sinner. I'm not perfect. Believe me. Believe me.
Well, that's because that's because you don't suffer. At least in this degree,
you grow in virtue, right? Because God's grace is helping you. Joe made a very good point. The sacraments. I can't speak. I'll tell you something. The answers sometimes are so simple. The Catholic Church, the sacraments are the medicine for the world. I'm telling you this. That's why Christ is called Savior. He established a church of flawed men, all from the beginning. There are good priests, there are bad priests, there are good bishops, there are bad bishops, but the sacraments are real. And I'm telling you this. Yet people, they're not interested.
But you hit the nail on the head. Look, what did I believe it was Milton who said, pride goeth before the fall. Pride is what we're dealing with here. People either think there is no God, or even if there is one, they know better. And right now in America, they occupy the Democratic Party ranks, the elitists in Hollywood, the advertising industry, academia, They are the cultural elites because they are consumed with themselves. They are their own God. I don't even care. And like I said, some of them believe in God. They're like, I'm not listening to God. I'll do it on my own. I'll do it on my own. I think the way I do. Want to kill babies in the womb? That's right. I don't care what your God has to say. Father Lewis says all the time, he knows some of these people. He says these are people who actually look forward. They say they look forward to going to hell. They look forward to it. Imagine how many prayers that person needs. Anyway.
I need prayers too, so please.
Yeah, please pray for us. By the way, Barbara Farley from Wisconsin, she's Chris Farley's sister. Remember Chris Farley,
wow.
Saturday Night Live actor? She's because she just sent me a text, or she sent me a message. It had a joke on it from the 2016 election, but the picture on it is Chris Farley. That's Chris Farley's sister.
Oh wow!
But,
he was
a Catholic. She actually we communicated a little bit.
Practicing went to church in what's it called?
St. Malachy's. I think
that was in the city, but in California, in Santa Monica.
Right.
Santa Monica.
Well,
he went.
Barbara could tell us better. But having said that, but she said he used to go down and volunteer at the soup kitchen and feed the poor in New York City while he was, working at Saturday Night Live. I think she even said, she doesn't know if Lorne Michaels knew about that, which I thought was kind of funny. But God bless you, Barbara, and God bless you for being on, being one of the supporters of our show. We really appreciate it. So you're at the front line with Joe and Joe. I think we got one more segment left. One more segment, but we thought it's definitely worth talking about because again, the LGBT Rage Mob is enraged, quite frankly. And Joe mentioned words like biblical and natural law, and that doesn't go over too well with the Rage Mob, and so they're attacking everybody in sight. So and it doesn't. And guess what? Race doesn't seem to matter anymore. And Joe's going to get into it because even if you have black skin in America, if you're against the LGBT Rage Mob, you're a target. So hit us, Joe.
Well, this was an interesting article because it's written by a gay man, and basically what he's saying is
who it is.
Well, the gentleman's name is Chad Felix Green. And he's a gay man, and he wrote this article saying gay activists attack homophobic, in quotes, black ministers on Martin Luther King Day. Basically, what the gist of the article is Pence went to a Baptist church on Martin Luther King Day. Pence is a Bible-believing Christian. He's baptized a Catholic. He left the Catholic Church. He went there, as he says, as a brother, meaning a Christian brother. And frankly, they welcomed him as such. So this is another one of our friends, NBC News. Basically, this is what they said. Pence attends homophobic sermon streamed on White House YouTube channel. Mike Pence spoke at a homophobic church service where the pastor blamed the devil for same-sex attractions. Basically, like just to summarize the article, they were talking about family. That was basically the gist of the sermon, how family is important, and basically how homosexual sex is a sin.
Right.
I wish Catholic priests would listen to what this man said publicly, because frankly, it's not said enough.
Well, Father James Martin probably would call him a homophobe too.
Because by the way, if those who, are not like in tune with what I'm saying, I'm not homophobic. I'm sinophobic. I love you enough to tell you the truth. And those who are gay, like, or who once lived a gay lifestyle, like Joseph Chiambra, who we interviewed, I invite you to look up that interview on Holy Faith Media, said he wished there were more priests that spoke the truth clearly. This is coming from a man that lived the gay lifestyle for 15 years.
Have you seen some of his recent Facebook posts, by the way? We urge you to follow Joseph Chiambra on Facebook. He's completely disgusted. He is absolutely completely disgusted with everything that's going on in the church, along the lines of what Joe was just saying, where he spent a good amount of his youth, okay, from like say late teens to when he was 30 years old. He's a little over, I think he's 50 now. So he's been out of that lifestyle for 20 years, but he's so not defeated. He's a strong man. I mean, to say what he's saying, to go into the LGBT community, let's say in Castro District in San Francisco and others, and hand out rosaries. He wears a shirt very clearly says Jesus is the savior of the world, or something along those lines. He's a brave man. I believe he's a strong man. Okay. For this guy to feel as demoralized, and it's the Catholic priests that are the ones that are demoralizing him, because as you just said, they keep lying to people. This pastor is not lying when he says that same-sex attraction, okay, is demonic. It's diabolical.
Well,
it's sinful.
It's the attraction is disordered. And if you listen, that's why I invite you to listen to Joseph Schionberg. Don't listen to me. Who am I? Listen to someone who lived the lifestyle. He's basically saying it's rooted in something else. This is somebody who once lived a gay lifestyle.
Right.
So my point is, the desire is a disordered desire. The action is a sin. Just like myself, who is a heterosexual, I am married. If I cheat on my wife, that is just as sinful. That is a mortal sin. If I die with that on my conscience without going to confession, I will go to hell. Oh, did I just say that?
Ooh.
Yes, I will go to hell. Oh, is there a hell?
Yes.
Is there such a thing as mortal sin?
Yes.
Yes, it is. So this man, who's a Baptist, is speaking the truth clearly. Take note of it, Catholic priests.
Well, would they blast him, Joe, if, let's say, for argument's sake, would he be an adulterer-phobe? If he said, it's really, people who are inclined to cheat on their spouses ought not do that because it's a mortal sin, right? Christ said you're an adulterer, okay? And Paul said, adulterers don't go to heaven. Is he an adulterer-phobe in that particular case? No, because they want to take church teaching on all sinful activities, particularly, let's face it, the church never picked on homosexuals. The problem that the leftists have with the church's teaching has to do with all sexual morality. They're the ones that made homosexuality and, let's say, sodomy an issue. The church didn't make it an issue. The church never singled anybody out. The church has its teaching on sexual morality from Humanae Vitae and before, right up to the present day. Contraception.
I was just going to say, that includes contraception.
Contraception is a mortal sin. You go to hell for that.
By the way, so is masturbation.
That's right. That's right.
Just so you know.
And for all you Bible-believing Christians out there who say, well, contraception's not mentioned in the Bible, go look up Onan and what God did to Onan when Onan withdrew. After God told him to go plant his seed, all right, and Onan withdrew and spilled his seed on the ground. And God struck him dead. It's called Onanism, all right? So contraception is alluded to there in Scripture. It's a mortal sin. But remember, look, Mike Jones says this all the time. The homosexuals are now the proxy warriors in the culture war, okay? In the past, it was black people. But guess what? We've said on the show before, black people are moving away from the Democratic Party. They're not moving towards the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party's had them in lockstep for years. Now what? Over 30% of African Americans in this country are supporting Donald Trump. Black people for a long time haven't been the warriors in the culture war for the oligarchs. Women, feminists in particular, were for the longest time. But they see their power when it comes to abortion slipping away from them. They see a conservative Supreme Court and a legit movement in this country to either severely curtail so-called abortion rights or to abolish it. So now the oligarchs are going to throw the feminists overboard. The new culture warriors are the homosexuals. That means you can't say anything that smacks of traditional sexuality, meaning one man, one woman, and families. You can't say anything critical. That's why this guy is called a homophobe. And Mike Pence is even more of a homophobe for going there and supporting this other homophobe.
And if you say basically, well, Joe, you're out of step with society. Yes. You see, Christianity is supposed to be not in lockstep with society.
That's right.
God does not reach down to our values. We're to reach up to his.
That's right.
And he gives us the sacraments and the grace to do it. All these things can be done if you allow your will and God's grace and they cooperate.
Right, but
go ahead. What I want to also touch upon is this, and we covered it in another one of our interviews with Chris West. You like sex? You will have the best sex if you do it in line with God's plan. Just telling you.
Well,
you see, this is where, the society tells you, do this, do that, do this. and you'll have a fulfilled life. No, you won't.
No, and until your life is destroyed and you have you have no place to turn except God, because as Joe always says, now this is a man, I don't blow smoke, okay, but this is a man who has worked with the Missionaries of Charity in New York, who were, when Joe was there, taking care of the dying gay men who were dying of AIDS. Where were all the people that were encouraging them to live that lifestyle? They were either in the bar or they were already dead themselves. But there was nobody there except the Catholic Church to take care of these men as they were dying, okay? Because they were lied to. As Joseph Chiamber consistently points out, he was lied to, and he gets disheartened and demoralized because they're lying still. The Father James Martins of the world and others, and all these elitists who are calling this black pastor a homophobe, or Mike Pence a homophobe. Well, homophobic then, okay? Deal with it. The majority of this country, the vast majority of this country does not agree with gay marriage. The vast majority of this country agrees with the Catholic Church that sodomy is a violation of the natural law, and that a sexual order that's towards anything other than a woman, let's say coming from a man, or opposite sex, all right, is a disorder, all right? The vast majority. That's why we never voted on gay marriage. No, we did in California. And it was voted down.
In California.
So they got the oligarchic institution in the Supreme Court and Anthony Kennedy, supposed Roman Catholic, okay, to bless, okay, to legalize gay marriage. We didn't vote for this. So you're not on the winning side here. The only reason you make people think you're on the winning side is because you control everything in the culture. Well, it's not lasting long. And another thing, too, you think you're going to control social media, all you globalists out there, all you elitists out there, all you culture warriors out there on the left. But the thing is, you're not winning on shutting down social media either. Because the people that are out there speaking like us and speaking the truth on these issues, we have a voice, and it's getting louder and louder and louder. You've just gone a bridge too far, and you know it.
They say in this particular, again, this is written by a gay man. He's basically saying what the activists claim. They say, didn't Christ, this is the lie. Didn't Christ teach us to love one another? He did. You love someone by telling them the truth. You see, this is what this black Baptist pastor is doing. He's telling the truth. And just like Christ, he's getting crucified.
Yep.
He's getting crucified. Remember, Christ told the truth. What happened to him? They nailed him to a tree.
Yep.
Society will always buck up against the truth. It's just the way it is. We, as followers, disciple means you follow. Christ is not looking for believers. The devil believed in the Lord. He knew he existed. That means you believe in him. He's looking for followers.
The devil doesn't follow the Lord.
Him. You're supposed to follow him. But here's, he makes a couple good points in this, and I want to bring this up. This is a gay man, by the way. This is what he says. He says, the fact that a religious congregation views secular issues from a religious perspective does not in any way make them hateful or anti. He also says, how is a religion supposed to function when it is expected to edit itself for the satisfaction of individuals and communities who do not wish to belong to it? Why do they care so much?
Because churches and the church, okay, and let's speak fairly about many of these. No,
he's talking about the activists.
No. Right. Why do they care so much? They care so much because when somebody preaches from the Bible, even though we might not agree with them theologically in many ways with the Protestants, but when they teach on this, they teach with authority, because obviously, the Bible is the Word of God, and we believe it. All Christians believe that, by the way, okay, except the wackos and some mainline Protestant churches or whatever, all right? And that has an influence on people. That has an influence on the culture, particularly when the Catholic Church does it. No offense to our Protestant brothers and sisters, but when the Catholic Church does it, people actually listen, all right? You remember when we talked about the production code that went on for 30 years in Hollywood. That was a Catholic movement to keep Hollywood in check when it came to pornography, when it came to nudity, profanity, gratuitous violence, and blasphemy. You could not include those in a movie, in movies, okay? The Protestants looked to see what the Catholic Church would say during that time, because the Catholic Church spoke with authority, okay? And it had an influence on the culture. Well, when you're in a culture war, the last thing you want is for, let's say, a Protestant minister or the Catholic Church, okay, to be speaking out against, let's say, homosexuality in general and gay marriage in particular, because people are affected. People say, you know what, that is right. I do love these people, but we're not telling them the truth by supporting them in this lifestyle. But that's like you said. Let's be clear. I think this is a very important point to make. I know you agree, all right? And everybody's got to get it clear. If, as Joe said, you cannot separate love and truth. If you think you love somebody but you're not telling them the truth, then you do not love them. I hate to break it to you, okay? They have to go together. The only way you could love somebody is to be truthful with them, to tell them the truth. Because let's face it, if you lie to people who are same-sex attracted and you encourage them in a lifestyle, do you love them when you know, in fact, especially if you're a religious person like a Father James Martin, if you lie to people, you're sending them to hell. You are sending them to hell. And remember what Jesus said, woe to him by whom sin comes to any of these little ones. What did he say? Think something about a millstone that you're dropped in the ocean? No. We're on the right side of history because we're on the right side of the truth. And the truth is Jesus Christ. This minister said the right thing. And for that, he's being crucified in the press. That's what's going on here. And we cannot let them bully us. We can never let them bully us. We can never let them silence us because they're lying. And we are not supposed to lie.
And getting back to Bishop Merlino in Madison, Wisconsin, this is something that he has said, and I fully agree with it. God rest his soul. He said, we're afraid to be hated. I think we're a little bit afraid to be hated. You see, it comes down to that. Why don't we tell people the truth? We are afraid to be hated. There's something, it's just like when you're a little kid, you want to be included, like in the cool set. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like as you get older, you care a little bit less about that, but you're still conscious as an adult. You don't want to be hated. I think this is something where I think, frankly, within our own hierarchy of our church, some of the bishops, they're afraid to make waves. Christ made waves. This is one of my heroes, saints. Saints are heroes, frankly, because they had heroic virtue. Is what's it called? Oscar Romero from El Salvador. He said a church that does not make waves. I'm paraphrasing New Jersey style because that's what I do. He basically says a church that doesn't make waves. What gospel is that? What gospel is that? What church is that?
It's either no gospel or a false gospel.
We have to be unafraid to make waves. And frankly, some people are not going to like you because of it.
Christ will.
And that's all that counts at the end of it all. I am not here to appease men. I'm here to live and appease, serve God. All baptized people are. And that's basically what will be held to account for that.
Right.
What's the first commandment? God is the top dog. If you are concerned about serving other people, it's an idol. You're holding that above God, whether you realize it or not. An idol isn't a golden calf that you build on your front lawn.
It's anything you place between.
Anything you put
right.
above God, and that could be speaking the truth. Why? Because we're afraid to make waves. We have to get rid of that.
That's right. That's right. And that's exactly what happened with Jesus and Pilate when Jesus looked at him and said, I came into the world to bear witness to the truth. And Pilate said, what is truth? He was looking at the truth right in his face, and Pilate couldn't recognize it. And that's what's going on with these people. They see the truth. They know the truth. But like you said, they either for money, power, either for pride, maybe they're just outright evil. I don't know. They don't want to see the truth. They don't want, as we said in the first segment, they don't want the faces of people who survived abortions to be in the front and center in a Super Bowl ad, because that's going to show people the truth. That these people were marked for death by their mothers, and they survived abortions, okay? Because people don't want to look at the truth. Because when you have to look at the truth, it means you have to look in the mirror. And that's one thing that a lot of people don't like to do. Anyway, we can go on. We can go on that one for a very long time. I do want to clarify one thing. Barbara just put one thing, because we were talking about Chris Farley earlier, okay, and that he served the poor. In New York City, when he was living in New York City, she said that he was a daily communicant. God bless him. That he was a daily communicant. And he always said, everybody is always getting, remember like last week with Kobe Bryant, right? Everybody gets wrapped up in their celebrity and everything else. I remember when Chris Farley died, and everybody gets wrapped into the celebrity. I never heard that mentioned. Did you hear one report talking about Kobe Bryant, the fact that he was a daily communicant?
That he went to mass that morning
He went to mass that morning with his daughter, all right, received Jesus in the Eucharist. Anybody say, thanking God that even through this tragedy, that Kobe Bryant went to mass that morning with his daughter and received Jesus in the Eucharist? Does it matter? Probably not with this media. But anyway, we're always going to tell the truth, aren't we?
We're going to do our best.
We're going to do our best, and we're going to be here, and we're going to show up. It doesn't matter if one person watches or 50,000 people or 50 million people watch. Joey and I are showing up. We got interviews on the way. We're on Holy Faith Media over on YouTube. Please subscribe. We're here at 8 o'clock, Facebook Live every Sunday night, going over the atrocities of the week, okay? And we're going to have a weekly slot, right, on the Crusade channel. We encourage you to take Mike Church up on the 30-day free trial. All right, you can listen to the Frontline with Joe and Joe starting next Monday from 6 to 8, I believe, and his whole lineup for 30 days. Okay, yeah, find the people that are telling the truth, because there's plenty of people out there doing it. Okay, plenty of people out there doing it. We're doing it here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe every Sunday night, and we thank you all for joining us, because our conversation, that's your conversation, and that conversation, that's going on everywhere. We'll see you next week.
Be well. Thank you for listening.